St Parish Hall to actually see inside this Oakwood station, which was also a hotel. So we'll go in here now. It's up with Constable Jackson's public around, and what I understand, not much inside has changed, so it should be really quite interesting.
And that's
right, so this is
once again you've got a break room. So this is would have been a bedroom, I suspect. Time passed. And this is used for the break.
It's a nice view as well, though, even now.
Oh, great.
As well, especially at the back window there, you would have got the harbour, wouldn't you?
Yeah, indeed. I mean,
It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the view out there. I mean, there's people who'd like that view now, let alone the Victorians' house. You're quite fortunate you get the view every day, mate.
Indeed, yeah.
I should point out, by the way, that this is the Constable of St Bart. He's very kindly allowed me to walk around the parish hall.
Pleasure.
But normally you wouldn't be allowed up here. I have to address that I'm really bad with names. You want to know your first name's Mike?
Mike Jackson.
Mike Jackson, that's right. So, but this all was hotel area.
Yeah. So this is the house, which means it hasn't met here for a while. There's Mrs. Kennedy, who's in here just now. It's a strong interest.
I think I'm noticing as well is when you look at this building from the front like that, it's actually, you can tell they were built by the same railway, because this one and St Heliers Terminus look very similar.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the railways in the UK, they seem to have kind of followed a pattern of they have their own style.
This was built by Mr. Chapman, who also built the Saga Hotel.
Right.
Some similarities there.
That's quite cool.
This is actually just that's just an archive, pretty much the same as that. Well,
yeah.
This is sorry, it's not very accessible here, but
yeah,
what you can see from here is actually where the trains would have come in down the back here.
Okay.
So if you want to,
so you would have actually had the canopy would have come off from along here, would it?
Yeah. Just refurbish some of these windows, so if you want to stick your head out there. But it's
straight over there. Right. So this is where your platforms would have been.
They would have run extended out there.
So take it the small building I can see here where the police have kind of backed up to park, that wouldn't have been here at the time.
No, there's
that's
a
an
couple
add-on.
of small extensions add-ons there. There's still the door into the police part. That's been altered quite a bit, so you don't see much from the actual school bit.
That's cool. Can we shut this window for you? There we go.
Thank you very much.
So this would have been a social room, this area then?
Yeah, I think, well, we'll look down the other side, but it might have been, or depends how many rooms there were on the other side, and I can't be sure. The only thing I can tell you is I had to speak to a lady, and she we met in my office, and she's a lady of the name. She said, "Do you know, when I was last here, I was being carried down the stairs as a baby when the place caught fire."
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So we'll just go through. Well, you can see
wow.
That bit that's stuck on there, that comes later, and that doesn't form. There was a sort of a greenhouse actually where that is now.
Right.
So that's altered a bit. This sort of central part hasn't changed a lot. I think this probably would have been a bedroom. And it's got service access down there, so we can slip through down into the...
It would have had a nice fireplace, I'm guessing, similar to the one in the room there once upon a time.
Yeah.
So this would have been... See how high the ceilings are in here as well, you can tell it's... Yeah, look at that. Royal, is it?
This is a flat we just done out. Actually, so there's a train there,
Okay.
and that's would have. This may have been at one point. This whole sort of floor was one flat, and it got split into two.
Right. Okay.
All right.
That's
Still very nice.
yeah, it was just reconfirmed a bit. So that's
Okay.
got somebody coming in.
So you can actually live in here then?
Yeah, this is let.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
So you've got, of course, the trailer side by side here.
Oh, I see. So we're at the side where the former platform 3 would have been, just down there,
Yeah.
isn't it?
If you look down there, there's two granite pillars. I was always told those were there, if you look on the outside, because the trains that promptly was those.
Huh?
Well, there's so many ways to stop it, isn't there?
So we're just above where I showed you earlier in the video, platform 3 was. And the view is as stunning now as it would have been back then, no doubt. Minus the restaurant, obviously.
And there was a sort of a hollow in the middle of that trunk, and there was the coal stocks there. So I think the last trading ships coming to St Oban's were the colliers. And I
Yeah.
suspect they put the coal in there, and that was maybe used for the trains as well.
Oh,
So,
okay. That's quite cool. I know that there was a small amount of track that went off down the pier at the St Helier end as well.
Yeah, I've never heard mention of tracks going down these piers, I have to say.
So, because the pit, it was quite an interesting one as well, wasn't it? Because it was one of those interesting periods where a lot of the commerce was also moving from St Aubin down into St Helier at that point, wasn't it?
Oh, it was, yeah, indeed. I mean, it was down to lack of water, really. And in fact, the ships got bigger and they couldn't dry out. So the other flat is the caretaker's flat. Now, the residue there used to be this stairway going into the accommodation I was talking about upstairs, but it's a stairway to nothing now.
Right.
So it sort of goes up there and stops. So that we're trying to work on that one to see if we can re-establish that.
That's cool. Yeah, because you can see there's like a slope here for a staircase as well again.
That's part of it.
So
now,
it curves around and goes back up.
Photographs there. There's the level crossing at the bottom of the high street. And there's the station at the whole. So
this is the other interesting thing I find is where like a lot of railways throughout like the UK etc. back then, because they were still quite new when we had ours.
Yeah.
It was they tended to level things out with like ballast and grounders. That what they did as an alternative, because they wanted to be able to stop the sea from washing it away, was when they had like the unlevel sections, they tended to actually use these wooden kind of props, like platforms, to prop the track up, which allowed the water to go underneath without damaging the track.
Well, there's a residue of those blocks and stones down there between here and the hole where they obviously had those piles and everything.
So I know they stopped running the trains in the winter months for that reason, because the sea was just too unpredictable.
Yeah.
So that's really.
What about was there some arches going through here? I've never seen them, I must admit. But,
Oh, okay.
they go
So it used to be arches. Okay.
So, yeah, the big hall is
Wow.
with the meeting rooms, dining rooms, not sure.
That's the grand doors there.
Yeah.
So this would have also been part of the station area. Now those doors would go out now onto where the former platform 3 would have been. So I'm guessing this would have been part of the old station at the time.
I think so. I mean, what its function was, I can't say.
Because I know platform 3 was very much an add-on, because it only originally had the 2, didn't it?
Yeah.
But
That's a way of trying to come around the buildings and that
see, actually, the list of constables as well. So going roundabout's the time that this, well, we're looking kind of probably around here.
Yeah.
1931, 1945, one of these two gentlemen would have been the first to have actually been in here as constable, because the parish hall obviously wasn't here originally. But
Until 1946.
I know they were saying as well, the fire here was a bit of a double-edged sword, because it was only like about a week before the fire here that all the employees and stuff had a employee party, and then the fire happened like a couple of weeks afterwards. They said the party ended up being somewhat of a double-edged sword for the employees. But yeah,
the parish after the fire,
yeah,
the states were the main creditors. So
right.
They took over the building and all the assets of the railway.
Right.
And the parish bought it from the states in 1946 for 4,500 or thereabouts.
Yeah, 'cause I was going to say it must have been just after the war, because I know that the stations and stuff were still there during the occupation, and the actual Germans themselves actually relayed their own meter gauge track along the railway, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they were reusing it to shift around stone and stuff to build their fortifications, etc.
Yeah, there was a one that ran up St Peter's Valley, didn't it? Another track.
Yeah.
There was a branch up from Port-Mulcahy, I think, going or Don Bridge.
Yeah.
Up north.
Yeah,
I think.
because they built their own what they call occupation lines, didn't they?
Yeah.
That they were very quickly removed.
Yeah.
I also remember, which I find quite amusing, is that once this one was built and then they gave permission for this one, St Peter's next door felt a bit left out, so they tried to apply to build something which was going to be called the North Eastern Railway. Yeah. And for one reason or another, it died off and they never got one, which is why the JR&T ended up with a train called Northeastern, because it's they bought the train before they had permission to build the track. So they ended up selling the train to the JR&T, and then St Peter's then, like, feeling still a bit feeling a bit left out, then went and spoke to the gentleman who owned Lamoy Quarry, which is the reason that this section up to the Corbiere was built, and then tried to get him to do a branch off at like Don Bridge or something, off into St Peter's, and it's like, for him it wasn't necessary, so he wouldn't bear the expense of building one. So they did feel rather left out for quite some time, did St Peter's. Like, St Brallard's get some railway, St Lawrence gets some, St Helier, why are we missing out? And of course, going the other way, of course, you had the Eastern one at that point, so of course even St Clement's, Grouville, so that you can see kind of why they were left out, but then...
Well, they had a station at Beaumont.
But yeah, and then towards the end of the railway as well, you had the little halts, but there's not much about those. Because Beaumont had little Beaumont halts. They put in some halts back in the late, early 20s, so about 1921, to try and improve business looks. Like you said, they were financially struggling at that point. So they put in the Beaumont halts, they put in a Millbrook halt, and they put in, Balroyal halt. And the problem was, I spoke to a gentleman who lives over here called Nick, and his dad used to drive the trains back when they were still running, and he said the problem with that then is that no one got the train because it was too slow, because it never got to speed of like more than about 6 miles an hour, and because JR&T also had the bus service and they were going the same route, people were like, why would I take like half an hour to get to St Aubins when I can do the same thing in about 10 minutes on the bus? So they really did shoot themselves in the foot, so they weren't helping their own railway either. So in some respects, I think putting in those halts to try and improve their business probably actually ended up ruining it and making it more difficult, because the train could never pick up speed, because steam trains obviously can't pick up speed that quickly.
No. There was a tale that when they were, during the First War, when they were taking prisoners from the pier to Blanche Banque, that they were they weren't stopping. It was full steam ahead all the way, and they were getting to, from town to there in about 12 minutes or some ridiculous time.
Yeah, and I know that the original section up from here as well, before the tunnel was built in 1898, was very much an uphill, literally an uphill battle for the train, wasn't it?
Very steep incline for a train.
Which is why they put the tunnel in to try and level it out a bit and make it.
Well, there was more about the reason the tunnel was built, because originally there's an outcrop of rock. On there where the actual footpath, the railway walk goes, where the train originally went, but it was too tight a curve, and but the person who owned the outcrop held out. Basically, it was a ransom bit of land. Held out, and so they ended up paying a load of money for it, which probably didn't do any good. And then eventually built the tunnel through because they owned it at that point. But there is a bit of a sort of an enclave next to the railway track, where at one point, before they could link the two, the St Aubins line and the Corbière line, so the Corbière train would stop there. There was a terminus there, and they'd have to walk through to catch the train further down. Because the parish actually owns a little bit of land there. Walk up the track to the back of what used to be St Bernard's Hospital. Find there's a little bit of a sort of a glade there, for want of a better word.
It's just that it's quite interesting to look at the old layout as well, because it must have changed when they built the tunnel a fair bit as well, because obviously the track as it was when it was lifted literally follows the path you walk. But if you follow the old alignment before the tunnel was there, it also shows that at one point it went kind of behind, it went kind of partially up this way, and then came across and went behind Corey Car Paints, which means they must have built some sort of overpass or bridge or something there.
Well, it goes round the outcrop and then carries on past Corey's, but it goes straight up from where it comes out of the tunnel. The track is just straight through there.
And then you've got the original tunnel that has always been there.
Under Seven Oaks.
And then of course the bridge across. And Montlacole's always been there, hasn't it? That tunnel.
Greenvale station as well. Greenvale is still there, but I think they did away with that because they didn't want to stop the train on the uphill because it took so much to get it going. Because of the steep incline.
Because that was literally, it was only maybe like 100 yards or so over the bridge, wasn't it? The Greenvale station. It wasn't that far.
Well, the house there next to it is still called Greenvale. So.
And it's also a case of, if you walk up there, you see there's quite a lot of clearances. So I don't know whether they had like little passing points where they had like little sections there where they were able to leave like bits and pieces. Because
I think the only passing place I'm aware of is Donbridge, actually.
Because Donbridge was because they had like a double track section, didn't they? There.
Just after that's going towards Corbière, just after the bridge. So,
and then
as you get further up, you'll get towards. Just by the Lemoy Golf Club, and you'll see the remains of the old platform there. The
Lemoy one was an add-on, wasn't it? Because the railway was already running, and they added that one a couple of years after it started running to appeal to the golfers, to make it easy to get to the golf club. So, but it's amazing how it fitted in. I was telling lady I was chatting to at reception before as well, is that even the military used to catch the train here at St Aubins, and they'd get off at Donbridge Station, and then they'd march from Donbridge Station to St Peter's Barracks. It wasn't such a long march.
You can go the bits around the outside.
Right.
So that's how they're done, and you'll see, just as I say, that was
Right. So this bit wasn't originally here then?
No. If you look at the old photographs, you'll see a greenhouse or room.
Right. So this is what's now the hall?
Well that's where the annex and stuff on. But that must have come probably after the war, after the parish built it, I suspect.
Because you can see the original facade above is in keeping with...
that's where we were in the bedrooms up there.
You've still got the old chimneys as well. Although it's obviously been a while since they've had any smoke come out of them.
I think so. So this is the bumping still I'm mentioning, but I don't
so the train sped didn't keep bumping into the building.
I wonder if they would have actually stopped a train, because depending its speed, I'm not even sure Jersey granite's that strong.
Well, They depends on the camera, doesn't it? But they do
Yeah.
tend to rock a bit. If you look at the photographs, it's very close to the screen.
Yeah, because this was platform 3 along this section, wasn't it?
I thought it was further up. I don't think it was actually alongside the building. I had my mind actually.
Yeah. Because I know just a bit further back there, kind of where you've got the statue now with the hand pulling the rope, is where the track used to actually split to either come into platform 2 or then come through this way, didn't it?
Yeah. But it's going the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the actual approach would have been down here to line up with that hole.
Right, okay, so this would have been the actual approach.
Yeah. Do you remember that window we looked at from the inside on the stairs?
There's double doors just there, yeah.
It sort of goes nowhere, and I think if you look at the old photographs, there was a sort of bit of a terrace, well, a veranda type set up there.
Yeah.
This is an add-on, this is a kitchen.
Yeah.
From the buildings there.
No, it's a pleasant enough. Oh, yeah.
Double doors there, you would have had like a balcony terrace section. So, yeah, so you would have had the shops at the butcher shop and stuff that set fire. Were they along the front here by the road, were they, or?
Yeah, that window's the one on the right is the bigger one you looked out of.
Yeah.
Yes, the shops were basically in line with the side of the building.
Oh, okay. So if I was down here now in the 1800s, I would have had shops along here. Because this was like Jersey's original town centre, wasn't it?
No, it was never really a town as such. I mean, well, actually, I say that. There's always some of the old people were referred to as the town centre because it had a market.
Yeah.
And the market, of course, was bisected when I took the train through. I mean, here you can see.
You can see as well here then like an impression where there must have been a door at some point where it goes inside the wall there.
That could well be the arches that go in.
Yeah. So these bits, just with the black flat roofs, these are all add-ons. These were added after the States took over the building in 1946.
Well, the parish took over the building, yeah.
So, and then these were just put in for purpose buildings for various reasons. And of course, yeah, that wouldn't have been here, obviously, but yeah. So obviously the pillars must have been, because...
Yeah, I don't know how much this country was changed. I mean, because we look at the side.
You've got, I'm assuming this must have been the original door for something.
There was a weight bridge again.
Right.
If you look at the old photograph again, I suspect that was connected to the weight bridge.
Okay. So this was for the weight bridge.
Unless it was that window possibly.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like a little window where you'd open it in the middle with the two windows either side, didn't it?
So if it came around across the bulwarks and you saw that level crossing there.
Yeah.
And originally the market had a corresponding bit this side.
Yeah.
So when they built the line in 1870,
Yeah.
they took this side of the market down to
Okay.
enable the train to go straight up and through. So,
Okay.
but that didn't go down to London.
Well, considering they got quite cross back in St Helier just because they weren't going to be able to walk along the beach anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of far more pressing to them being able to go and buy food and things and obviously just going for a walk. Yeah. Right, so that's the inside of what was Oakwood Station and Terminus Hotel. Thank you to Mike Jackson for letting us in. It's been really quite interesting, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and next few videos won't be railway related. We're going to be starting a separate series on German tunnels, so I'll see you in that one, and then once we've had those we'll then finish off going up here to Corbière. So until then, I'll see you next time.